history here. I'd like to get this hearing in today. You know, everybody needs to just focus on the relevant facts, okay? I know there's a history here.
Are you talking up by Sunset Mart? Up the hill by the gas station?
Yeah.
Okay. Why did you... All right, who's responsible here?
What's that?
Who's responsible here? Whose house is this?
Yeah, I've been drinking or anything, right?
No.
Okay, drive careful, okay?
Thank you.
This is what the other group had.
Come on in, let's go.
Oh, really? You just did shit? Awesome.
Yeah, those ones kept walking in the car.
It's Truly's for the win.
Truly's! How about Twisted Tea tonight? Really quick sponsor. This goes out to Big Dick Energy and Twisted Tea, half and half. Twirl it around. Also, shout out Jennifer Drake, Miss Drake, awarded $15.8 million. $15.8 million. Give it up for Idaho. That I was given to. So there was 2 different discs. Okay? They all knew about it. Another update for you guys. Sheldon Jeter Jr. will be back in the courtroom in April. Looking forward to it.
We're not here to talk about the alcohol stuff, okay?
Okay, yeah.
But this is the second noise complaint we've had here tonight within 2 hours.
How are you?
Good, how are you?
Good. Is this your place?
Yeah.
Perfect. You know why we're here?
And isolate noise.
Noise, yeah.
Yeah.
Big speaker right there.
Yeah.
Nothing against having a party. Once neighbors start calling in, then we have an issue.
Like brains, and like if you need a lot of brains, you're gonna be
In trouble. Welcome. Happy, what is it, Friday, Saturday night? I've been waiting. It's today, Saturday. I've been waiting to do this show since Megan Kelly did the show. So, you guys, if anybody out there thinks that we are conspiracy theorists, I don't even know what to say about what Howard Blum and Megan Kelly just did, because they've lost their minds. Let's see. So just a quick little roundup here. I want you guys to think about, I'm going to come back to it at the end of the show. I'm going to put Megan Kelly and Howard on, like, I don't even know, 10 speed. I'm going to do it fast enough so that we can still understand them. And then I've waited to watch this live. Of course, it just would come across my feed. So I've seen, little snippets or whatever, but I have not seen this. I want to watch it live so I could be fully just reacting as boom. Wow. But I want you guys to think about, when would Dylan Mortensen have been shown pictures of what Brian Kober would have looked like? When would that have happened? When would that have happened? Okay. We're going to come back to that here at the end, but that's what we're going to start with. And I want you guys to just think about that. And then I have a little bomb for you at the end. Okay. All right. Okay. So I would like to welcome my guests tonight, Megyn Kelly and Howard Blum. As you guys know, Bella interviewed Howard Blum. So the two people really only interview Howard Blum, Bella and Megyn Kelly. So give that up right there. Now, Drunk Turkey did a spinoff, so we'll give him some love too. But okay, all right. Let's do this. Let's bring to the stage. Next on stage, we have. This is for educational purposes only.
Hey everyone, I'm Megyn Kelly. Welcome to the Megyn Kelly Show and today's bonus AM episode. Brian Kohlberger, the suspect accused of murdering 4 University of Idaho students, is set to go to trial in August. But in late January, there was a pretrial hearing, and an important one, that revealed shocking new information that we have not heard before. Joining me now to break down all the developments is Howard Blum, journalist and New York Times bestselling author of When the Night Comes Falling, a requiem for the Idaho student murders. Don't miss a moment. Subscribe to this show on YouTube and follow me on Insta, Facebook.
Oh, no way.
Howard, welcome back. I have to say, it's such a busy news time for us to be doing this. Just shows the significance of what happened at that hearing on January 23rd and 24th. I was like, we've got to get this on because I don't want to overstate it, but it's possible the prosecution's case is falling apart. It did not go particularly well for them. Let's start with the DNA. What happened?
Okay, so right there, Megyn. Okay, she comes out with a bang. It looks like the prosecution's case is falling apart. All right, so right now, Megyn Kelly won in Lana's book right there. I'm liking it. I think that she's correct with that statement that it looks like their case is falling apart. But let's find out why she thinks that.
Well, the way these authorities got to Kohlberger wasn't through any other evidence at the beginning, but just a little speck of DNA, smaller than a piece of dust, that was left on the button of a knife sheath that was left behind. They used this speck of DNA, they processed it so that they could give it to an FBI laboratory. The FBI laboratory then, after months of not admitting what they had done, it was revealed in the end of January in court that they had taken this DNA and they had uploaded it to 2 websites, ancestry DNA websites, that prohibit law enforcement from using this DNA. The FBI did this not out of any evil reasons, but just out of their zeal. You have to go back to the time of the killing. Here was a murder of 4 young children on the loose. They had really no clues except for this DNA. Except for this DNA, it was in many ways the perfect crime. They had no blood.
Okay, so right there, I'm going to have to go -1 for me with Howard Blum right there because there were suspects. Okay, Ann Taylor's calling, like there were suspects before Brian Kohlberger. So when they didn't have anything to go off of, there were suspects. Okay, so for me with that, I disagree that they didn't have anything to go off of. But also right there, Howard Blum is making an excuse for what's about to happen here, which is the FBI did whatever the hell they wanted, and against policy did their own policy, uploaded to two different sites that were not law enforcement. But he basically is justifying to say, like, well, 4 people were murdered, and we need to find this killer. Okay. It's like a we have our rights type of thing, but in this situation we can just go ahead and do whatever because that's
Blood evidence, really, they had no.
Wait, what did he just say there? No blood evidence. There's blood evidence at the scene. Hold on.
On the loose, they had really no clues except for this DNA. Except for this DNA, it was in many ways the perfect crime. They had no blood evidence.
Okay, right there, Howard. I like the way you said it. First of all, he's wrong there too. They had blood evidence. There's people's blood that's there that's not Brian Kohlberger's. There's blood evidence there. Number 1. Number 2, he says it's the perfect crime, minus the fact that he's saying that it was a perfect crime, minus this sheath with this DNA on it. Doesn't that sound kind of sketchy? That sounds kind of sketchy to me. Like, ooh, it was a perfect crime minus this. So continuing on, but there was blood.
Really, they had no evidence of anyone stalking these young college students. All they had was
they had no evidence of anyone stalking these, yet they told everybody that that Brian was. -3. So we got Megyn Kelly with 1, and we have Howard Blum -3 right now.
DNA, so they ran with it. And this DNA allowed them to open up many other doors, ultimately having a series of search warrants
this DNA allowed them to open up many other doors. What doors? I'm -4.
That led to the suspect's, Brian Kohlberger's phone, his car, his apartment. But without that DNA,
But see, right there, he's not understanding it. If you would have used and just said how you went about it all and put it all in search warrants and didn't lie in affidavits for search warrants, yeah, absolutely. But that's not what happened.
DNA, they couldn't have gotten these search warrants. And now the defense is saying, wait a minute. This suspect's Fourth Amendment rights were violated by the FBI's going into these prohibited websites.
That's not the only thing that they said. Howard Blum, -5.
You've been saying this all along. You've been suspecting that the FBI got this match between the DNA, the touch DNA on the knife sheath, and matched it to Kohlberger's father, possibly by doing something they're not allowed to do, which is use the commercial DNA websites that people like you and I might go to if we're looking for a long-lost relative. They have a public database. C.C. Moore, the original creator of genetic genealogy, talked to us about this a long time ago, saying there's only one that's totally...
Okay, -2 for Megyn Kelly. C.C. Moore is the creator of genetic genealogy. What?
public, and anyone can upload their DNA and see what's on there. The other two are fee-for-service private companies that are not allowed to be used by law enforcement. Otherwise, nobody would go on there, right? They'd be like, if I ever committed a crime or have a relative down the line who might have committed a crime, I'm going to get him in trouble. So there's supposed to be this hard wall. And you said early on you suspected, because the FBI seemed to be very cagey about this whole thing. They didn't want to turn over the results of how they got this to anybody, that maybe they had done something they weren't allowed to. Go ahead.
But not only did they not want to turn over the results, they said literally that they had ripped up the evidence of their research. They said we just threw it out. Who ever heard of it in a major murder investigation?
All right, Howard Blum gets a point there. So
FBI
from -4 to -3.
Evidence, but this is what they.
Yes, you should not be ripping up your evidence. You should not be ripping up your work. Why would you ever do that? Well, because they're destroying the evidence of them violating us.
They did, but the defense kept on pressing and pressing, and now they got a judge to give him the evidence, and it proves beyond a shadow of a doubt, it came out in open court that the FBI violated the protocols of these two genetic websites. Now, how is that going to affect the case?
No, -4. They violated their own policy, and then they violated the terms of service. So it's two things. They violated their own policy, and then they violated the terms of service of these. Not just one, but two. So fucking they did three big no-nos.
The judge
wait, before you answer that, let's just show the audience what Kohlberger's defense attorney, Ann Taylor, yes, that's her name, argued.
Megyn Kelly gets a point there. All right. She's like, yep, that's her name, Ann Taylor, because she's talking about the clothing line. So I'm going to give Megyn Kelly a point there. So Megyn Kelly's -2. Howard Blum's, what is he at? -4, -5.
About this investigative genetic genealogy, IgG evidence. Listen to her in SOT 41.
Your Honor, our position is that the court should suppress the IgG identification and everything that flows from that. This is supported by Fourth Amendment of the United States Constitution, due process, Article 1, Section 17 of the Idaho Constitution. Your Honor, there was no warrant for several phases of the search that led to the IgG work, investigative genetic genealogy. And we think...
Right there, Ann Taylor says that there was several search warrants that were supposed to be gotten, before even... I think people missed that part.
Every single one of those stages, a warrant was required. None was given. And so this must be suppressed.
She's saying all the goods they got after getting that hit have to be suppressed and cannot be used because they're in essence the fruit of the poisonous tree.
Exactly. And if you look at what they had before them, there's not much except for one thing. After Kohlberger is arrested, he's in a Pennsylvania jail, and they do a cheek swab. And the DNA from that cheek swab matches the DNA on the button of the knife sheath. That is pretty substantial evidence. But if they can get that thrown out, that will make a case that seems pretty much a shut case to be more open than shut. And there's going to be a possibility of a Franks hearing. That's a judicial process named after a 19...
All right, Howard Blum gets a point back here. He's being matter of fact. And so -3, and Megyn Kelly.
1978 Supreme Court case where evidence was thrown out because the police had falsified information to get their warrants. The judge has not said he will have this Franks hearing, but he has raised the possibility, and he's asked the lawyers to keep time available to have such a hearing. And if
that's not what the prosecution wanted to hear. The prosecution wanted to hear, there's no need for a hearing. This is ridiculous. Irrespective of how we got to Brian Kohlberger's father as being related to the person whose DNA was on the knife sheath, we know it is Brian Kohlberger's DNA because we ultimately took a cheek swab that shows it was him. So the problem for the prosecution is the judge is not saying no. He's keeping the door open. He might actually have a hearing on this. So he's at least a little interested. But can I just say this to what you just said, Howard? The DNA matching Kohlberger directly is absolutely devastating. There's no question. It's a terrible fact for the defense. But as I understand her argument, Ann Taylor's, it's that you would never have been cheek swabbing Brian Kohlberger if you hadn't been doing the shenanigans with the DNA and 23andMe. Like, she's saying you can't even use the cheek swab because it too is fruit of the poisonous tree.
It's 100%. That's how you got it. It's from the arrest warrant. You would have never got the arrest warrant if you didn't do all the AT&T stuff too, which I think is going to be really interesting because regardless of IGG, AT&T stuff, like lies.
Poisonous tree.
That is what she's arguing. That's part of her argument. But also at that hearing, something else was revealed, which is perhaps even more dramatic and makes her case even more substantial.
Okay, so hold on. But before we get to that, let me finish up this part. I know there's a lot of stuff to discuss. So just so the audience knows, that's what she's trying to argue. She's trying to say everything that followed as a result of you figuring out that Brian Kohlberger's DNA, his dad's DNA, was traceable from that knife sheath has to be removed. You have to get rid of it, including the cheek swab. Now, the judge did not seem like he was going to do that. He seemed very into the actual cheek swab, and he didn't sound like a man who thinks that's fruit of any poisonous tree. But here he is, Judge Hitler, talking about that DNA match in SOT 43.
There's a DNA match between the DNA in the sheath and Mr. Kohlberger. Isn't that probable cause every day and twice on Sunday?
He's such a moron. I'm sorry, but isn't that probable cause? You don't have that. You don't have that. You don't have that. Okay? Because what he's referring to right here, Hitler, is he's talking about like everything, all the search warrants after his arrest. And she's like, you're not even getting to that point.
Not in this context. Not in this context because of the IgG work.
That's, again, she's saying the investigative genetic genealogy undermines it and makes it unusable. Is that basically what happened?
Well,
That's basically what happened. But
and AT&T.
also, if they throw it out, there's really not much there. I mean, you have to, in many ways, it was a perfect crime, except for the leaving the knife sheath behind. Consider the house there was so much blood in the house that it was coming out of the sides of the house. It was coming down the foundation of the building at 1122 King Road. And yet, no blood was ever found on Kohlberger. No blood was found in his car. No blood was found in his apartment. There is no evidence also of Kohlberger having any connection to any of the murder victims. There's no evidence of him talking to any of them, ever being in the house, of him stalking them on the internet. There's no murder weapon. There's no motive.
All right. Howard Blum gets a couple more points here back. So we're going to put him and Megyn Kelly both there at -2.
Even. So without this DNA evidence, the case against Kohlberger becomes a lot more problematic.
Okay, but how about the fact that, I mean, the best fact?
How about, I think without the DNA, it's, what case is there?
I think, other than the DNA match, is the fact that when the police went to arrest him in the Poconos in December, this crime was committed the month before in November. My God, is it 2022 now? I'm losing track.
Yes.
Yeah, 2022. When they arrested him in his home, back in his parents' home in December, he was there putting his trash into individual little baggies that were being disposed of in the neighbor's trash can. That is terrible. Very incriminating.
Wait, where is this from? Where is this at? Where is this? Megyn, why are you talking about something that's like, this has never come out? This murder happened in 2022. He was arrested at the end of 2022, and it is 2025. Megyn Kelly gets -4. This has not been anywhere.
Incriminating.
That's very incriminating, yes. But if Ann Taylor, the defense attorney, is trying to get that, the FBI and the police coming into his house, she's trying to get that thrown out. The terms of this, she's claiming it was an unlawful assault without the necessary warrants to arrest him in his house. She's raising everything.
Of course, as any good defense lawyer will. But that was, we've heard her out on the genetic genealogy thing. You were right, and she was right that there was some funny business going on from the sound of it. But there's no way she's getting out the FBI, what they found upon arresting him. No way. And it's just a terrible damn fact. But
what did they find upon arresting him? What is she talking about? How can she even say that? If the arrest warrant is null and void, everything that comes from arresting him and whatever was on him, whatever he was doing, all of that's out. I don't think Megyn Kelly knows the case. Okay. I know she's really busy. She's been, cheering her ass off for Trump over there. Let's give her a little ring. Why don't you go ask Trump what he thinks about the FBI?
Go back to your first point. I firmly believe Kohlberger committed this crime. But what's fascinating is how good he was at covering it up, to your point.
Give her a point for that. I mean, she's just like coming out and saying it. So you got to give her like, hey, I think Kohlberger did it. But I don't know what, but to me, that's just hilarious versus like, again, like, I have no idea if Brian Koberger did it. I mean that. I wasn't there. We've heard nothing of the evidence. Nothing of the evidence. I have no idea if Brian Koberger did it. I'm simply saying Moscow Police Department, Idaho State Police, whoever was involved in this and other cases that I've also seen in Idaho they're so bad at their job. And I don't know if it's, you want to say like they're just incompetent, they're corrupt. It's a little bit of both. I don't give a shit. They're just not good. It's the bottom line. Like, go get your Fila shoes, but they are never Zoom, Nike, $190 pair of shoe type of employees. Go get your Filas over there. But Megyn Kelly just comes out and she says, Brian Koberger did it. All right. Jesus. All right. Well, hey.
Make a defense lawyer well, but that one's, we've heard her out on the genetic genealogy thing. You were right, and she was right that there was some funny business going on from the sound of it, but there's no way she's getting out. The FBI is what they found upon arresting her. No way. And it's just a terrible damn fact. But go back to your first point. I firmly believe Koberger committed this crime. But what's fascinating is how good he was at covering it up, to your point. There's no murder weapon. And she reiterated these points. So these are all updated now. We've been speculating, but she was on the record with.
Okay, so now she believes that Brian Koberger not only did it, but he did such a good job of, wait a second, covering it up. Well, Megan, you'd have to also say he did such a good job of like never Googling their names, never typing their names, never,
They haven't found a murder weapon. They did not find any blood, Howard, she said this, on Brian, on any of his belongings, or even anywhere in that car that they practically dissected.
Yes, I mean, they took apart the brake gears. They were looking all over for any blood. No blood in his student apartment at Washington State University. Nowhere. It was a perfect crime in many ways, except for leaving behind the knife sheath.
Except for leaving behind the knife sheath. Wait, we're 13 minutes in and we haven't heard anything about, when there's just like, which one of these one things doesn't belong, that song. When do you start asking yourself, well, could this be a frame job? When it's just like one piece,
Such a massive, massive error. But what about the car and the phone evidence? Because when we read the police affidavit before his arrest, it was white car, Hyundai Elantra.
Wait, you didn't read that before his arrest. You read it after his arrest. Negative point for Megyn Kelly.
They changed the year once they started to narrow in on Koberger because they had the years wrong. But then,
what do you mean they had the years wrong? Megyn Kelly, come on, girl, you are smart, or are you not? I mean, how do you have the years wrong? They're using software.
Then they said, okay, it's 15. It's not just 16 anyway, whatever his car was. And
whatever his car was. Just chuck it up. No, it was a 2011, 2013.
We've seen that car around, the murder house many times, according to the cops. And also,
what? She needs to stop fucking talking, man. Negative point, Megyn Kelly. The cops never said that they've seen his car around the house. The affidavit says that he's pinged on the same cell tower that utilizes that 1122 King, and he's been on the same cell tower 12 times. I just, wow.
So his phone records show that he was in the vicinity of the murder house over and over, including
over and over and over. He wasn't in the vicinity of the house. He was on a cell tower.
Or they didn't have him there during the murder hours because his phone was off. But then the next morning he appeared to go back before they'd found the bodies in the 9 a.m. hour. So
well, here's what the defense is going to say, and I think it's a fairly convincing argument, especially in a death penalty case. You have a white Hyundai Elantra by the house, but you have no proof that that's Koberger's car. You never see the license plate on any of the videos. You never see the man behind the wheel in any of those videos. They're all obscured. So there are lots of white Hyundai Elantras around. They can't make that connection directly. Then when you have the cell phone tower triangulation,
and also the car isn't the same year,
that puts him in the neighborhood of the murder house. Well, it's a 10-mile radius. In a town like Moscow, 10 miles takes up a lot of territory, a lot of neighborhoods. You never have any proof that he ever parked in front of the house, that his car ever came to a halt in front of the house. You can speculate, but you can't prove it. Are these inferences enough to condemn a man to death? It might be hard for a jury.
What is the 7-minute screw up on the timeline by the cops.
Well, it seems the cops, when they were tracking the white Hyundai Elantra that night, made an error. They got the timelines wrong, whether accidentally or deliberately.
They got an error. They got it wrong somehow. Oh,
But off by 7 minutes. And they put the car that they allege is Koberger's closer to Moscow at the time. But the defense is saying that because of this screw up, which no one seems to be arguing that the cops got this time incorrect, this would have allowed Koberger to be driving away from Moscow and to this state park where they claim he was at the time of the murders. That would seem to substantiate. Yes, stargazing on a cloudy night.
He never said he was stargazing. I mean, are people... I think comprehension is totally lacking in all across the world. Okay, read, people, read. Okay, he didn't do it on that night. As she was talking about in general, this is the things that he would do. He would go hiking. He would go this. He would go driving. He would do this. You know, and he took late night drives. You guys know how many times I did that shit in college? I would take my Jeep top and take all the doors off because at nighttime in the city we would go blasting music and just driving around. Fuck shit. I mean, did it all the time. We always drove up in Cincinnati through Mount Adams and wow.
At 4 a.m. when the temperatures are.
Imagine if you were like on a motorcycle, you know, if you owned a motorcycle, you go riding on your motorcycle. Like it just.
Below freezing.
My gosh. All right. So it's a screw up by the cops that won't be helpful to the prosecutors in trying to show this case was done by the book, all T's crossed, all I's dotted. All right. So that's some of the stuff. I'm amazed that at this point in the case, she's saying openly there's no blood evidence tying him to the crime. I thought for sure they'd find something, you know, that with all the searches they did of his apartment or his car, his clothing, there'd be some speck of the 4 victims' blood. This is a brutal murder done by knife, K-bar knife, in the middle of the night. These 4 beautiful college students asleep in their beds or in their rooms at least. And he
or at least in their rooms. Oh God, Megan.
He is alleged to have killed them in the course of 12
But I
minutes.
get it. Like I'll give Megan a point there because she's just repeating the PCA. So anybody that's just repeating the PCA, you cannot fault them. You cannot fault them for repeating the PCA because cops are not supposed to lie. So
all 4 of them, you'd get blood all over you, Howard.
And there was so much blood in the house that it was, as I said before, coming out of the foundation of the building. And yet, to make it even more interesting, more dramatic, it was revealed that they did find blood in the house, unidentified blood in the house, but it wasn't Koberger's.
No, this is big. Wait, hold on a second before we get to that. That's an important development. But think about it, because many of us believe that he had on like a worker's suit because we saw that he bought one via Amazon, like a
how does she know what he bought? How does she know what he bought from Amazon? I don't even know what he bought from Amazon, and I'm fucking like document queen over here. Megan Kelly, who's your source on that? I want that source. He bought an outfit from Amazon that was like a coverall. Where are you getting this from, Megan? Like, and then, you know, negative point for Megan Kelly. That's just
like a painter suit, you know, that would cover up your whole everything you're wearing, and that
like a bib.
He did that for a reason, right? He knew he was going to get bloody, and maybe he had those little booties that, you know, like when the heating guy comes to fix your heater, he puts on before he walks into your house. But he would have, like, think about it. He's sneaking out of the house covered in blood. Where does he take the stuff off, right? According to them, the eyewitness saw him, which would have shaken him. He wouldn't have wanted to be hanging out in the house, disrobing, changing out of his workman suit and his booties if he's wearing them. He must have done that in the car. You would think he would have done that in the car and then disposed of this along with the murder weapon on the way home. And we'll get to the eyewitness, which is the most interesting thing of the whole day. But pause there. We'll get to the blood. We'll get to the eyewitness. So if you got into your car with a bloodied jumpsuit and a bloodied pair of like those slide-on booties, there should be blood evidence in the car.
Yes, and there was nothing in his trunk. They'd taken the car apart top from bottom. The only scenario possible is that before he got into his car, he had a garbage bag. He put all the clothes he was wearing in a garbage bag and drove off basically in his underwear.
I love it. Yes. He just stripped down. I mean, how did OJ keep the Bronco clean?
And that was clean. But where is the clothes he was wearing
Howard Blum gets a point. Brian Koberger in his underwear.
that night? Where's the garbage bag? Where's the murder weapon? No one can find it. They've been looking for 2 years now, 2.5 years, and they don't have a trace.
I mean, he did quite a job of disposing of that murder weapon and those clothes. That's all you need. I mean, it'd be ballgame. He'd be done. He'd be total toast. I've often wondered if he managed to put it up in a tree somehow, like instead of down, instead of digging ground, which if they'd gotten enough search crews out there might have been identified. Is there any chance
I think he
went up
probably
with it?
threw it into the Snake River. He was driving back there. The Snake River sort of came by the territory. He could have just tossed it anywhere near there.
It's so risky
Or
though,
it's
to come back
possible
up.
that he went up to that park that he's using as his alibi. He could have gone to that park after the murder as he's driving around, perhaps, and then left it somewhere up there.
It's just mind-boggling. There's so much blood.
Yeah, he's gonna take the fucking knife for his fucking alibis out so that fucking they can go find it there. But yeah, he's so smart, right? Like that's just the stupidest fucking thing I've ever heard. Negative point to take it to the Hawaii park. I mean, yeah, this is where I was. Go find the fucking murder weapon now. Oh. So again, we're talking about conspiracy there. So they're saying that, hey, I'm telling you that Kober had to strip down. He had to have a garbage bag. He had to put everything in a garbage bag because, I mean, how does somebody not get there? They'd be covered in blood. And then you had the other people that say, oh, he had his car wrapped. So, okay, that would be in my eyes even worse because when you're trying to like pull the wrap with the blood, like I've talked to Rotor about this numerous times. He's like, Lana, I'm going to tell you what's also going to be there. And that's why Ann Taylor said something about it. And it was that there was not even a sign of a clean up in the car, like a bunch of products, like you're using all of this shit to clean up something that wasn't even present. So not only was it that there's no blood, there's no signs of a cleanup. Okay. So Brian Kober is able to, make his car look like a 2011, 2013. Then he's also his kill kit, everything, he manages to use a knife, the same knife on 4 victims, and he doesn't cut himself, but yet there's blood there. We're going to get to that.
Blood, the house is bleeding. 4 dead young 20s, and teenagers.
House is bleeding.
In the course of 12 minutes, there would be blood all over you. How did he get it to the point where there was no blood in the car? That's a big mystery for me. It's a big question in this case. Okay, but let's talk
a big question for the jury.
Yeah, on the subject of blood, what you were going to say, we learned about those two other spots of blood.
I mean, why have they not said the obvious thing, which is that he didn't use that car? You know what I mean? Like he didn't use the car, that car. Like, why aren't we saying the obvious? Like, no, because then everything goes to shit because there's that white car circling. I mean, it looks to me that he didn't use that vehicle. If Brian Kober is the killer, Brian Kober didn't go there in a white car.
Of blood.
In the course of the hearing on January 23rd, Ann Taylor, Kohlberger's attorney, revealed that there has been blood found in the house belonging to 2 unknown males. The blood was found on a banister, a handrail, going up to the 2nd floor, and also inside a glove outside the front of the house.
Wait,
blood.
He just said going up to the 2nd floor. Is this a slip here? Or was it going up to the 3rd floor? It's totally 2 different things. And I think he means going up to the 3rd floor, because if there's blood on the railing going up to the 2nd floor, and now that, oh boy,
from 2 unknown people. Now this was a party.
I don't think Ann Taylor ever said she was not specific with where this blood was, other than, and it wasn't even Ann Taylor that said the railing. It was Ashley Jennings that dropped where the blood was at, and then it was on the railing, right? Didn't that come from good old Ashley Jennings? Let me just rewind this for a second. Let me get Howard.
A banister, a handrail going up to the 2nd floor, and also inside a glove outside the front of the house.
Inside a glove? Like, wait, what? Like, where is he getting these little sprinkets? Like, what ins? I'm telling you, before there was a gag order, he had a source. Okay. He said that the blood was inside the glove, not on the outside of the glove. Where's he getting this from? Where is he getting?
Found in the house belonging to 2 unknown males. The blood was found.
2 unknown, not like 1, guys, but 2.
On a banister, a handrail going up to the 2nd floor, and also inside a glove outside the front of the house. Blood from 2 unknown people. Now, this was a party house, so you can imagine there'd be fingerprints on the handrail. But what reason is there for blood? And what reason is there to be blood on the glove? And if they would belong to someone who had gone to the house during one of the parties. Well, how hard would it have been for the authorities to track down the fraternity boys who came in and out of the house and gotten blood samples from them? But to this day, 2.5 years later, they still have not been able to identify the blood. When the judge heard this, he said in open court, "Are you saying that Koberger had other people working with him? This doesn't mean Koberger wasn't involved, but there could have been accomplices." Accomplices. This throws out a new mystery into the case. And here's how Ann Taylor is using it. She says the real question is, how did the knife sheath get there? She is
exactly like Koberger has accomplices. Wait, why aren't we asking just a question of like which item doesn't fit? Okay.
Is now going to argue in the course of the trial that these two unknown males, either one of them or both of them, put the knife sheath on the bed. They were involved in the murder, and Koberger, prior to the murder, has somehow innocently touched the knife sheath. The DNA on the knife sheath is just touch DNA, and she is claiming that, or will claim at the trial, that this was done innocently by Koberger. It's a argument that can raise a lot of doubts, I believe, in a jury's mind, and the prospect that there could have been accomplices in the murder further complicates the case.
Let's hear if Megyn Kelly asks, well, like, what lengths have they gone? If, by the way, Howard Blum's right about the inside of the glove, give him a point here. But since we don't know, take a point away. But it's really interesting. And then this whole banister, if it's going to the second floor or going to the third floor, because it matters. But let's see. I'm gonna give Megyn Kelly a chance here to see if she mentions something that I would ask.
The prosecution, did the FBI do any genetic genealogy on the DNA from the blood?
There you go. Give Megyn Kelly 5 points for that question. 5 points. So wherever Megyn Kelly was at, give her 5 points. So she might even be in the positive right here. Bingo. Right there. That was the question I was waiting for, which is, well, there's blood. I mean, what did you guys do how hard have they worked to figure out whose blood it is? Let's find out what Howard says.
All I know is what was revealed in the court, and the court referred to it as unknown males. And it seems
any
that they can't
theories
track it down.
on how not one but two men's DNA got on this crime scene, Howard?
Well, I'll throw out a hypothesis, and again,
okay, here's a hypothesis. It's a
hypothesis, and maybe it's a sketchy one, but I believe Koberger was guilty. I can't get around the cheek swab DNA that ties him there. So if he was out to commit the perfect crime, if he was a student of forensics, he could have taken a vial of blood with him. He could have put it on the banister. He could have taken a glove with blood already embedded in it and left it at the crime scene. And he could have done this deliberately to put the authorities to look for two other people. And he would have, meanwhile, been just gotten away with it. It all would have worked if he hadn't left the knife sheath behind.
Holy shit, Howard. God. Who is saying that you're the transparencies and conspiracy theorist? What in the world? Brian Koberger, in a matter of 13 minutes, killed 4 people, stripped down to his skeevies, planted blood evidence because he brought vials in that motherfucker, put it on the banister, put a glove outside so that Chris McDonough could walk by one day and act like that was the glove, but it wasn't. I mean, what the fuck? Wow. Oh my God. You guys, where did he get the blood at? Where did he get these vials of blood? Where did he get these vials of blood that he just, dude, this is like some Mark Furman shit, man. He's just fucking Mark Furman's over here just framing OJ. He's like, I mean, give it to Howard, though. He did say this was a little like, this is my hypothesis. Wild. But wait, nobody has thrown it out yet, though, that that the sheath could have been planted. You guys, where would Brian get 2 vials of blood that are not the same person? Maybe one of them's, you know what? Maybe just one of them's Brent Kapaka. Throw it in there.
It's a fascinating
Maybe one of them's Steve Gonsalves. Throw it in there.
theory. All I could think of when you were saying it was, of course, the famous Johnny.
Don't you? Oh, famous Johnny Cochran. Oh, shut the fuck up. She says it.
Cochran, if the glove doesn't fit, you must acquit. And I bet you anything that glove does not fit Brian Kohlberger's hand. And if this is true, right? Like what if he, as this, he's just getting his PhD in criminology. He's a TA in criminology.
Why would there be blood inside the glove? How did the blood? I would just love to know how much blood's inside this glove. Outside, obviously. Inside, interesting. And then it's your own blood. How does your own blood get in the inside of a glove? It's not like one of the victims. How does your own blood get inside the glove? That means that the glove had to be cut and then you're cut at the same time. But if that glove is not cut, and then, hey guys, word is also saying Howard Blum's the first person to say that the blood was inside the glove. Let's just also, like, that has not been ever said. That's Howard Blum's words. I'm going to give Howard Blum positive 10 points because that's some wild ass shit. And I hope the state goes with that. Because I want to hear them say that Brian Kohlberger planned the perfect murder and that he did all this shit. And then you're going to fucking say that he did it in 13 minutes. Something like that, 12, 8, who knows?
Criminology. All he does is study crime. And apparently he was very good, a very good student of it. Very annoying and irritating to everybody he worked with.
Very annoying. And Megan Kelly gets -1 there. Have BK Norton on if you're going to fucking talk about that shit. -1.
Washington University. But what if he really did do that? What if somehow he had access to somebody's blood? I don't know how he would have gotten it, but there is some speculation this may not have been his first crime. If this was his crime, it was so meticulous and well handled. Perhaps this wasn't his first rodeo. And what if that really was like an homage almost? The two gloves, reasonable doubt.
Wait, now the two gloves. Megan, what are you talking about? There was not two gloves there. So Howard Blum adds in that there's blood inside the glove. Now Megan Kelly says there's two gloves there. Megan Kelly, -3 points. I mean, I cannot even believe that 500,000 people have watched this shit.
Right. And it would have worked. And
it would have worked. He said it would have worked. Like the case has already been decided. Yep, and it would have worked. You guys, -1 point. How does somebody have a conversation with somebody and not correct them? If I heard you say something that wasn't right, I would tell you, I'd be like, oh no, that hasn't. No, just one glove, not two. Like.
And the police to this day can't identify whose blood that was. And again, if he hadn't left the knife sheath there, I don't think they would have been able to ever get to him.
My God, it's such a
well, no shit. No shit, because there's nothing else there. Like, you're never getting to him without that knife sheath. Ever getting to him. Never. The words never getting to him. Like,
colossal error on his part. I know this is a
colossal error on his part. They haven't said once, though, that it could have been planted.
Weird place to go, but I'd give anything to have been there when he realized he forgot it. To see the look over his face when he realized his perfect crime had been foiled by him, losing something as basic as the knife sheath, as incriminating as the knife sheath, and then just praying to God that all the times he handled it with gloves on protected him from fingerprints or anything that would tie him to it, and yet he wasn't careful enough.
And yet, if his lawyers can get the evidence on the knife sheath thrown out because of FBI overzealousness, it can turn the whole case upside down, and an innocent man could be found. I mean, a guilty man could be found not innocent, but not guilty.
Not guilty. All right, now we have to talk about the eyewitness, but before we do, I want to say this is the first time I really thought about the DNA. Now that they've been caught, right? The FBI, they shouldn't have used those private company databases. They did. They're obviously much bigger because a lot more.
God, they only think that it's that part of it. That's just really kind of bothering me. It's more than just that they use those companies, okay? It's way more than that.
A lot more people would give their DNA if they knew it was going to stay private and not be available to law enforcement. So they did, and that's how they found Brian Kohlberger's dad. To me, there's actually no chance of the judge suppressing.
That's how they found Brian Kohlberger's dad. -2 points. They didn't find Brian Kohlberger's dad. because of the what are they talking about? Wait, I need to rewind this.
Databases. They did. They're obviously much bigger because a lot more people would give their DNA if they knew it was going to stay private and not be available to law enforcement. So they did, and that's how they found Brian Kohlberger's dad. To me,
that's how they found Brian Kohlberger's dad. Brian Kohlberger's dad has nothing to do with they didn't find Brian Kohlberger's dad, because that's not what happened here. They found Brian Kohlberger's dad. They found Brian Kohlberger's dad. Because why? Because Brian Kohlberger has a dad. They already had the name Brian Kohlberger. The fuck is she talking about? Oh my God. Jesus Christ. And if you meet me halfway, unless she has information that we don't have, and Brian Kohlberger's
there's actually no chance of
was in
the judge suppressing the genetic genealogy, the touch DNA, or anything because of that, because that is a violation of the terms of service. I assume it's Ancestry DNA and 23andMe. I don't know, but
it's My Heritage. It's My Heritage DNA. That was the one site that was cited in court.
Okay. So that's a violation of the terms of service of that company. That company has rules that law enforcement's not supposed to go on there. But I don't think there's a law saying you've broken the law as a cop if you go on there. It's just like the cop violated a term of service of a private company. So that's between the cop and the company. Maybe the cop, the police department gets sued over that. But I don't see how that helps the defendant whose DNA was uploaded.
I agree with you. I think they're just trying to create as many arguments as they can to force the defense, trying to force the issue. I do think Kohlberger's relatives, if
they don't know anything about the whole protocol, then there's supposed to be search warrants that are got. I went over it, the DOJ intern policy. The best part about the DOJ intern policy, as I told you guys, the prosecutor is there every step of the way. Bill Thompson, Ashley Jennings, y'all knew the whole fucking time what y'all were doing. And oh God, I just wish that Ann would just pull the trigger and call them. I mean, they'll get called if there's a Frank's hearing.
If they wanted to, could sue the police department, the FBI who did this. I think the FBI agents who did this could be reprimanded by the Justice Department. Those things could happen, but I don't think it will affect Kohlberger's case. But again, I was totally surprised that the judge left open the possibility of a Frank's hearing. And if this happens...
Negative points. I mean, Howard, did you listen? Have you been listening to that hearing? You got people that are just lying. You have stuff that's just being written down that just didn't happen. What do you mean that you're just shocked that there's going to be a possibility of a Frank's hearing? You know, also, you didn't even hear, like, what is he talking about? -10. Fuck it. Howard is -10 right now, just for this, because we didn't get to see the IGG arguments, okay, and the evidence in court. We didn't get to see the Franks. We have no idea what took place in that courtroom because it was not open to the public. So how he has any, I don't have a say on it. Like, my thing is, I don't have a say on it because I didn't see it. I didn't see the Franks, okay? I didn't see the IGG. Nobody did. And so how he is just so shocked that the judge is leaving this open. Well, I don't know why he'd be so shocked, because the answer is I'm not shocked. I'm not shocked because I don't know what happened in that hearing.
If there is a Frank's hearing, then it's potentially a whole new ballgame.
So interesting. Okay, let's get to Dylan Mortensen, right? Who is the
Cheers. Do me a favor, hit the thumbs up. You leave your touch DNA on the thumbs up or the thumbs down. If you're here, I mean, you gotta be enjoying it.
Witness. He went in the middle of the night. He killed 4 roommates, but there was one roommate. There's another roommate who wasn't there, and there was this roommate, Dylan, shown here. And she is what they called an eyewitness in the affidavit. She said she saw a man of medium build with bushy eyebrows wearing like a COVID mask, that they made eye contact with one another. She was frozen in a frozen shock phase, and he went by her. She went back into her room. She locked the door. She stayed in her room until almost noon the next day as her roommates were bleeding to death. No one can understand the decision-making, but no one's been in such a situation. I don't understand what happened with Dylan. No one does. But talk about like your witness collapsing. She may not even be able to give the prosecution what I just said.
Exactly. What happened?
Your witness collapsing. What are you talking? Negative point for Mike and Kelly. I'm going to let him speak on this but I have to say, Megan, what are you talking about? What came out in that courtroom is that Dylan Mortensen could have been in no shock phase, frozen, doing whatever. She was texting. Don't know who she was texting. activity on her phone. Wow, nobody's frozen.
What happened was what you related with happened in the first interview the police had with Dylan. Over that week and the next week that followed, there were 3 more interviews. Those 3 interviews, she seemed to change her story. She said that perhaps it was sort of a dream she was seeing. She couldn't be sure. Then she...
Oh my God. Wait, Howard, where are you getting this information from? Listen to this timeline about Dylan, because that's going to be my end of my bomb that I have. Who does he think, first of all, was interviewing Dylan? Dylan does an interview on the 13th. Dylan does an interview on the 17th. Dylan does an interview on the 13th of December. Now, there's a question mark if she did one on the 1st of December, and then she did one on the 30th of December. So you have the 13th, the day of the murder, the 17th, then you have potentially the 1st, the 13th, and then the 30th. Who did we know that ISP interviewed Dylan. I have her down as being interviewed by ISP on the 30th. I have her being interviewed by, obviously, the FBI wasn't involved on the 13th, so she wasn't interviewed by the FBI on the 13th. So I have MPD on the 13th, possibly ISP, so on the 13th. And then I have, in my opinion, I believe that it's the 17th, if there was one on the 1st, and if there was, I know there was one on the 13th. I think those middle interviews, 17th, 1st, 13th, I think that those are FBI's. And I think, so let's hear what Howard has to say here, though, in his breakdown of Dylan.
Police had with Dylan. Over that week and the next week that followed, there were 3 more interviews. Those 3 interviews, she seemed to change her story. She said that perhaps it was sort of a dream she was seeing. She couldn't be sure. Then she said that one of the victims had gone down the stairs, and that wasn't possible because the victim had died in her bed. And then she admitted finally that she was just too drunk. That too drunk was the words that Ann Taylor used to come to any reasonable consideration of what happened that night. And then finally, on the 4th interview, just before they were going to arrest Koberger in Pennsylvania, the Idaho cop showed her a picture of Koberger and asked, "Can you?"
So do you understand that Howard Blum, this never came out. Howard Blum is saying that he has information that the Idaho State Police provided Dylan Mortensen on the 30th a photo of Brian. And he's saying it was the 30th. Okay. Do we believe that? So before he was arrested?
"Can you identify him?" And she said, "No, I can't." And that really weakens her use as a witness, between being too drunk, between saying that she might have been dreaming the whole thing, and then not being able to identify the photograph.
Okay, I have a question. You have an eyewitness. Okay, you're going to tell me that Payne, okay, gets the name Brian Kober on the 19th, and then says, "Well, fuck, let's show Dylan. Let's see if she recognizes this man. Oh my God, he's been at a party before, right?" No, they don't do anything. They don't do anything until the 30th. I just want to know where he's getting this information. You guys, I sat here and listened to that. Where did anybody say that ISP gave Dylan a photograph? Where was the name ISP used?
Finally, that she was just too drunk. That too drunk was the words that Ann Taylor used to come to any reasonable consideration of what happened that night. And then finally, on the 4th interview, just before they were going to arrest Koberger in Pennsylvania, the Idaho cop showed her a picture of Koberger and asked, "Can you identify him?" And she said, "No, I can't." And that really weakens her use as a witness, between being too drunk, between saying that she might have been dreaming the whole thing, and then not being able to identify the photograph. Well, the prosecution's big witness has, I don't even know if she'll testify at the trial.
I don't know if she will either. And that may have been the point of her changing her testimony. Like, picture a scenario in which she's just too terrified.
Ann Taylor never uses the word photo lineup. She never uses the word lineup. I will go back and listen. If Ann Taylor says the word photo lineup,
terrified to sit in a courtroom across from this guy and also in front of the public, which, I mean, she didn't have any.
One more time.
Her use as a witness between being too drunk, between saying that she might have been dreaming the whole thing, and then not being able to identify the photograph. Well, the prosecution's big witness has, I don't even know if she'll testify at the trial.
I don't know if she will either. And that may have been the point of her changing her testimony. Like, picture a scenario in which she.
I don't know if she's going to testify at the trial. What? Wow. I mean, I'm sorry, but I completely disagree. Dylan Mortensen is the timeline. Anne said photo. Thank you. I know that Anne never said lineup. You guys, Dylan Mortensen places the time of the crime. The defense is calling Dylan Mortensen. It is not. A lineup isn't the same thing. If she was just shown one photograph or like 3 of Brian, or was it like a 6-pack? Did you get 6 photos of like, here, look at any of these people? There is a way that you have to do an identification. You can't just like, there's proper ways to do stuff. No caps in chat.
In which she's just too terrified to sit in a courtroom across from this guy and also in front of the public, which, I mean, she didn't have anything to do with these crimes. It's just, there's a fair amount of like, what kind of a person would go back into their room and not call 911?
Guys, this is like Eldora. This is like the Eldora of the case. Okay. You have her all over the probable cause affidavit to arrest this man. And now you're not going to call her as a witness. The state, the defense is 100% calling her, but I think that the state is going to do what they did in the Karen Reed case. If you don't call her as the state, I think that it's going to look bad. But they may say like, well, no, let Ann Taylor call her because then she has to ask her all, non-leading questions. But I can't wait to see how they're going to try to get around. There is no introducing things through hearsay. Hearsay is not going to, like, sorry, we know that Payne, he ain't going to be able to testify as shit because of what he just did. Mowry, he ain't going to be able to testify as shit because of what he just did in that other hearing. They've made their scope. They don't remember anything. They don't know anything. They didn't do anything. Okay. You cannot testify to hearsay. You cannot introduce reports. All right. So there's going to either be hella video that's going to be shown, body cams. It's going to be wild. This trial is going to be off the hizzy. I just want to know how the state is going to explain their case to a jury. Viewer of the state, how would you explain your case? Let's go back to these. What do we have? -30 to -20?
It really weakens her use as a witness between being too drunk, between saying that she might have been dreaming the whole thing, and then not being able to.
And then Ashley Jennings is like, well, we know that she wasn't dreaming it because it happened. We're talking about the person. We're talking about the person that did this. We're not talking about the fucking, clearly there's 4 people dead, but how she's remembering anything. Oh boy.
Identify the photograph. Well, the prosecution's big witness has, I don't even know if she'll testify at the trial.
I don't know if she will either. And that may have been the point of her changing her testimony. Like, picture a scenario in which she's just too terrified to sit in a courtroom across from this guy and also in front of the public, which, I mean, she didn't have anything to do with these crimes. It's just, there's a fair amount of like, what kind of a person would go back into their room and not call 911? Yeah.
Give Megan a couple points there. What kind of a person would just go back in their room and not call 911? How about what if she wasn't there? That sounds like a person to me that wouldn't call 911 because I'm not even fucking there. I don't even remember where I was. I thought I was at home. What kind of a person?
After, she's saying she's so afraid of this person, she went into shock. It's just hard to understand. I'm not.
Wait, what do you, Blum, fill her in here. -2 for Megan Kelly.
Trying to be unforgiving.
I don't want to impugn her character. I mean, who knows what's going on in anyone's mind? But not only does she not call the police for 8 hours, the first people she calls are not an ambulance, not the police, but she calls fraternity people to come to the house. They come and they call the police.
And they are the ones we believe.
How did they know that it was Dylan that summoned people over? We have never been told who has summoned anybody over. What is going on here? And I'm not saying that they're wrong. I don't know, but they're talking. These two are having a conversation that we're all just like, where are you? We've been told for 2.5 years. We're not telling who called 911. We're not saying what phone it was called on. Blah, 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 blah. These two are literally having a conversation, and I'm just like what? Like, they have a different playbook than we have. I don't know where they're getting their information from, but I can tell you that I know that Howard had sources on early on, and because there wasn't a gag order, and I think he was talking to somebody in the police department. I lean towards Gunderson, but
We believe now, Howard, who found the bodies?
Yes, there's a new video that's just was released last week, and you can see Ethan's twin brother, they actually were triplets, sitting outside the house the moment when the police arrived, and he's wearing a pink sweatshirt sitting by a dumpster with his head in his hands. It's a very poignant video.
Wow. So because that was always one of the big mysteries, that it was somebody else.
okay, so somebody sent me that. They're like, I think this is the first time. I think this is them on the, like, what? This has not even been authenticated. Like, I don't even, what? Jesus.
People to come to the house. They come and they call the police.
And they are the ones, we believe now, Howard, who found the bodies?
Yes, there's a new video that's just was released last week, and you can see Ethan's twin brother, they actually were triplets, sitting outside the house the moment when the police arrived, and he's wearing a pink sweatshirt sitting by a dumpster with his head in his hands. It's a very poignant video.
Wow. So because that was always one of the big mysteries, that it was somebody else. It wasn't Dylan who called 911 when ultimately the authorities were called, and we didn't know who it was. But now we believe it was the fraternity brothers who she called to come over to the house.
Yes, the actual fraternity brother who made the call was Ethan's best friend. And the police have never released that 911 call. I imagine it will be played at the trial.
That is unbelievable. So she is saying she doesn't
Give Howard a point there. He's imagining right. There's going to be definitely a 911 call. It's going to be played at trial. He isn't sitting with his head in his hands, Howard. I don't even know what to say. So, who called 911? Who was the unconscious person? Who picked up knives in the house and went around, armed themselves with knives? Who did that?
doesn't know if she actually saw him or if it was her mind playing with her. She conceded that she had a lot to drink and was too inebriated to remember anything that happened that night with any authority. And when they showed her a photo of Kohlberger after the fact, she failed to identify him as the intruder she had seen. These are terrible facts.
Not a very good witness.
No, she's not going to be helpful at all. And it's unfortunate. Their case doesn't rise or fall on her, but boy, you'd much rather have her say, I'll never forget those bushy eyebrows. And if I see those eyes again, I'll know them. And then say, there they are, right there at defense table.
Right. And what's making all these doubts about the case have even more weight, there's a...
Oh my God. You have the brows. I don't even,
There's a bill that's just been introduced in the Idaho legislature. It was at the beginning of January, where right now the death penalty is administered through a chemical injection. And then if the chemicals aren't available, then there is a firing squad. Well, the Idaho new bill wants to get rid of the chemical injections and just make it a firing squad.
Wow.
So they want to, they are demanding their pound of flesh in a sense. And that's going to weigh on the jury too, I think.
Wow. I don't know. I'm fine with the death penalty. I really am. I like O'Reilly always used to say he was against it because he thought it was too easy on the defendant. He wanted them to suffer in prison. I just feel like if Brian Kohlberger committed these crimes, he killed these 4 young, beautiful people in the prime of their lives, I'd have absolutely no qualms at all seeing him shot down by a firing squad. I might actually celebrate it.
Give Megyn Kelly 5 points. She's going to celebrate it. Oh my God. What the fuck, Megyn Kelly, are you talking about? Okay. People should be put to death over eyebrows. I mean, like, that ain't never happening.
Well, you might be able to get on the jury then.
I think what they're missing in all of this is, have they said one time yet that Well, what is all this stuff in the PCA about opening the door, closing the door? None of that was said. Like, why haven't they talked about that? I mean, they're just lost. They're lost, and 500 motherfucking people that listen to this story are now too lost. For no wonder why people are so fucking lost with this case. So it could never be that it was planted, the sheath, or because no way. But Brian Kohlberger planted blood. I mean, are you kidding me? Now that's just bias. That's just confirmation bias right there. If you ask me, that's just confirmation bias. No, he didn't. Nobody planted that sheath, but he planted blood. What a bunch of idiots! That's just crazy.
Oh, maybe I'll at least go out there. I just feel like I have no empathy for a person like that. Again, it's not totally consistent with my Catholic faith, but it's just how I genuinely feel. I just feel like those people shouldn't be allowed to roam the earth any longer. But I have to be honest. I don't like the fact that all the supporting evidence is falling apart. And, when we talk about how the cheek swab matched Brian Kohlberger, what we're saying is the cheek swab, Brian Kohlberger's DNA was definitely on the knife sheath. That's what that proves. It was his DNA on the knife sheath. But let's be honest. All that really proves is that he touched that knife sheath at some point. It does not prove murder.
Exactly. Ann Taylor's big question, and what her defense is all going to be based around, is how did the knife sheath get in that bedroom? Who could have?
So Megyn Kelly gets 5 points back. Yeah, knife sheaths don't kill people. And it just means that he touched it at some point, or it means it was planted.
Could have put it there. It wasn't Brian Kohlberger.
Right. And if there's, if the car evidence is falling apart, right? Like, it's true, you can never see the driver nor the license plate.
The year.
Right? You can't see the license plate in any
No,
of
you
these videos.
can't see the license plate. You can't see the driver. And it took the FBI 3 shots until they were able to identify the car. So Ann Taylor's going to argue.
Wait, Howard Blum, how do you know it took the FBI 3 shots? Dude, I'm telling you, he knows about this stuff because information that was given to him before the gag. 3 times. It took him 3 times before they could do what? To what? There's what car here? Because there's like one that you have to worry about at WSU campus, and then you have the one that's on Moscow. I mean, like, wow. It took the FBI 3 tries. But like, why aren't they saying, yeah, and the FBI guy said that he is most comfortable saying that it was a 2011, 2013.
It took the FBI 3 times. Maybe it should have taken them 4 times, and they would have finally gotten it right.
And then the cell.
So he's saying that they got it wrong? This is wild.
Phone hits. They're helpful, but they're not ball game.
The cell phone hits where, Megyn? What? Come on, girl. Where's the cell phone hitting? Gotta hear this again.
It should have taken them 4 times, and they would have finally gotten it right.
And then the cell phone hits. They're helpful, but they're not ball game. But without a motive, without a connection. Go ahead. What were you gonna say?
I mean, the cell phone hits are 10 miles in a town like Moscow. You could be, on the other side.
You could be in Pullman. It's 9.7 miles away. Pullman to Moscow is 9.7 miles.
Town seeing someone. I mean,
Is that what Ann Taylor said at the hearing? Did the prosecution push back on that at all? Because
No.
I've definitely heard prosecutors argue, no, they can be more specific than that.
What was so interesting to me at the hearing, the prosecution didn't really argue any of her points. When she said it was an outright lie, that was her words, outright lie, that he had stalked any of the victims, they didn't argue. They went along with that. That there was no blood evidence, they didn't argue. There were no dog hairs found anywhere on Kohlberger. They didn't argue. They seemed to be conceding all these points except for the DNA evidence.
That's not good enough. That's not good enough, because it'd be one thing if his blood were at the scene and
Megyn Kelly 5 points back. Yes, Howard Blum 5 points back. Nobody was arguing anything, were they? Ashley Jennings was just twirling around and fucking basically signed her fucking name to a Frank's hearing. What a moron.
And that was a match to the cheek swab. What we're saying the cheek swab matched was that one piece of
swab,
the touch DNA on the knife sheath, which I realize is a good fact for the prosecution, but it's not ballgame. It's maybe he somehow touched the knife at a friend's house. Maybe he touched it in a store. Maybe, I know he purchased a knife on Amazon that appears to have been a K-bar knife, but maybe somebody stole that knife.
What? You guys. Megyn Kelly knows that he purchased a K-bar knife on Amazon. How come we don't know this? How does Megyn Kelly know this and we don't know this? Megan, where are these Amazon receipts? When was this Amazon knife? When was this K-bar knife purchased? What was it purchased with?
That knife from him. There's a lot of loops the prosecution's going to have to close.
I mean, you're a good lawyer. You're raising all the right questions.
Megan's a good lawyer. Is she a lawyer?
Now that unknown male blood has been found in the house, that raises the possibility of accomplices.
Wait, there is more than just unknown male blood in the house. There's 3 unknown male DNAs. The glove, the banister, and now but there's something else. And you have to think that when Idaho State Police forensics team was doing what they do, they weren't swabbing areas it didn't matter.
There's other people there on the murder night because it's not fingerprints that were found, it's blood. Would you leave blood at a party? I don't know.
But back to my favorite piece of evidence, the fact that he was shoving his garbage into little baggies for disposal in the neighbor's trash. Cops had already realized he was disposing of his trash in the neighbor's. The night the FBI raided his parents' home in the Poconos back home in Pennsylvania when he went on winter break is just absolutely devastating. Though I will acknowledge it is possible a crafty defense attorney will find some willing family member or someone to say there was a reason for that. Like he's got OCD. He always did this. He'd done it for years. We didn't know why.
Do they not know about the huge they have like fucking trash police there. We did a huge episode on this channel about the way that the trash operates over there in that development. And it's where's the body cams of this? Where is there any? I want to see photos. I want to see him doing exactly what she's saying.
I don't know why then if he had to put his things in Ziploc baggies, he couldn't have put it out in his own trash, had to go in the neighbor's trash. But that's a terrible fact for the defense.
Well, the defense is going to try to get around that in one way, is that Koberger's parents lived in a sort of gated community, and they had a garbage service. The FBI and the Pennsylvania State Police got Koberger's garbage from this garbage company. The defense is going to claim they did not have a valid search warrant, a valid warrant to get this garbage from the private carting company. I don't know if that's going to hold up in court, but that's the argument they're going to raise.
So the best case scenario there would be they exclude the fact that they found the Kohlberger's trash in the neighbor's trash bin, but it would not exclude them finding him shoving his trash into.
When did they find him doing this? Who found him doing this?
Individual Ziploc baggies at the moment of the arrest in the middle of the night. That
moment of the arrest in the middle of the night. And he was, placing his items in Ziploc baggies. Interesting. I don't even know what to say. They have, you guys, Payne testified that he has not seen the drone footage. He never got it. It's his case. He never saw the drone footage. He's never seen any video of any arrest. I don't even know what to say. I'm telling you this, that Pennsylvania State Police do not have body cam. So you're going to either, the FBI either had it on or nobody had it on. Pennsylvania State Police, no cams. I've dealt with it before.
That sounds like a criminal with something to hide, not an honest criminology student who's been, wrongly accused.
I agree, but at the same time, he's a very strange young man. He has visual snow. He was a heroin addict. He has strange practices. He goes off at 4 a.m. to look at stars in a wilderness park on a foggy night. Would he put his garbage into separate bags? Who knows?
Oh my God. Howard's just giving us a preview of how this is going to sound at trial.
I mean, it's going to be a very interesting trial. Even the jury selection is going to be interesting.
I'll be there
and
for
they
that.
are going to, this is a good preview because Ann Taylor's going to pick apart every piece of the prosecution's case. Like every piece, nothing will be allowed without objection, without a counter narrative. And all she needs is one juror. She just needs one to say, I don't have total confidence. I have reasonable doubt.
And in a murder case, you really got to be sure if you're sending someone off either for a lethal injection or a firing squad, you want to make sure beyond a shadow of a doubt that you're doing the right thing.
Oh my God, this makes me feel sick. I have like acid in my stomach from this discussion. I wish they had more. I know. No, it was an important hearing. You learned a ton. We corresponded privately. I was like, oh my God. Well, we've all been paying attention to Trump. Stuff.
Give it a Megan Kelly gets 10 points there. Megan.
It's really been happening in this very important case that, I mean, truly, we laugh because it's like now it's easier to just talk about the legalities of it. But these 4 beautiful college students, and once again, they are Madison Mogan, Kaylee Gonsalves, Xana Kernodle, and Ethan Chapin, murdered right in the prime of their life, November 2022, and their families deserve justice. And they deserved it before this August. It's been too long. Did they talk at all about moving the trial date, or do we think it's on for August?
Well, they're trying. I think it will take place. I don't think this judge is going to
Oh, it's 100% taking place. It's not moving.
delay any longer, but the defense is still asking for more time. We'll see if he grants it. I don't believe he will, but
More, when did they ask for more time? Has that happened recently? I can't even. Okay. Well, now I want to thank Megan Kelly and Howard Blum here for being my guests, number one. Number two, let's talk about. Now, I don't know where Blum is getting his. Please go and look. And it never specified what day. I mean, did they say that Idaho State Police did that on December 30th? With Dylan in a picture? What's up? Look at these two hussies coming on in here. Yeah. You guys, Brian Kober got vials of blood, planted a glove like Mark Furman, put blood inside the glove, put blood on a banister, but 2 separate people, stabbed 4 people, let himself be seen by another and just left her just to twirl her hair and text. Yeah. I just when you can think that could be possible, then it's how do you not think it's possible that the sheath was planted? I mean, a vegan with vials of blood. I don't even know. I mean, okay. I want to show us one more thing. Let's see if I can find it. Again, welcome everybody. Come on in. Again, I want to thank Megan Kelly and Howard Blum for being my guests today. They took their time away from their schedule, and Howard Blum brought that big dick energy, and Megan Kelly was on point as well. So let's see. Now, okay. When there was a time that Dylan Mortensen allegedly spoke out, and it happened through a friend of hers. Do you guys remember that? Let's see. Do you guys remember that? I want to play something. Oops, wrong one. Is it? Okay. So I want to throw some suggestions out there based off of what Howard Blum is saying about the December 30th being shown photos of Brian Kober. If we go back to the hearing, okay, Ashley Jennings, in response to arguments presented in defendant's memorandum in support of Frank's hearing, tells the court that Mortensen's description of the perp was only ever general in nature. The argument being there was no disingenuous attempt to win probable cause by directly identifying the defendant. Jennings emphasized her point by reminding the court that when Mortensen was shown a picture of Brian, she failed to recognize him. Now, do you guys remember for Jennings to have advanced this argument in open court in the first place meant it had to have been featured in the state's objection to defendant's amended motion for Frank's hearing? Because, do you guys remember when Ashley Jennings was asked by Hippler, hey, is that your response or your reply, blah, blah, blah. And she's like, yeah. And he's like, I figured, I fucking thought you were going to say that. And he didn't want to hear that. So meaning that if they supplied S1 to S5 as far as the exhibits, so it had to have been supported by one of those attachments, which was S1 through S5. And the state only attached those 5 exhibits to its filing, S1 through S5. So only 2 of which could possibly have included this information, which is the interview with Dylan Mortensen on 11/17/2022, which was exhibit S1, or the interview with Dylan Mortensen on 12/1/2022, which was exhibit S2. You understand where I'm heading? Ready? It's very interesting that Howard Blum wanted to say this, that it was the 12:30 interview with Dylan Mortensen, that's what, she was shown a picture of Brian Koberger, right? Well, that wasn't an exhibit. In fact, it was Ann Taylor's exhibit. Ann Taylor's exhibit was the interview with Idaho State Police. Right? She used that because it was Vicky Gooch, right? I would love to know what was used. A great way to figure this out is what probable cause affidavits were used to obtain the AT&T warrants. In the AT&T warrants, if they use pages 1 through 15, 1 through 15 most definitely had Payne already mentioning the fact that Dylan didn't recognize him. Now, is that because when Ashley Jennings reads that, she makes it seem like that was from, we wrote it there, that she said that she didn't recognize him. Okay, follow along here. So what this would mean is that Mortensen was shown the defendant's picture on one of these 2 dates, which would either be November 17th or December 1st. And that these interviews were conducted by the FBI agents since no officer's name was associated with them. And it was only upon seeing that picture that Mortensen had to have recalled the suspect's eyebrows, since Jennings excluded these as being a consistent feature throughout all of her interviews. What do we think about that? Coffee cake passing out. Everybody's turning green. Green. Sherry D, 5 Truth and Transparency memberships. Woo! Jen. No, you are the best. Thank you for fighting for the truth. Oh, I'm trying over here. Thank you, Jen. We love you. Sherry D, 5 people joining her in her green state. Mikey S has been a member for 21 months. Woo! Loud and proud, baby. Mikey S gifted a membership, turning somebody green. Jen gifted 10 memberships. Holy shit, how many memberships the whole damn chat's going to be green. WB, $5 super chat. Woo! Super sticker, sorry. I thought it said Ann Taylor. Annie, Lana, rewind till where they talk about 7-minute error. You missed him saying police made a mistake, accidental or deliberate. Oh no, I didn't miss that, babe. Howard Blum dropping some little nuggets here, definitely. Coffee Cake gifted 20 Truth and Transparency memberships. Holy ball sack. Megan Kelly hopefully grabbed one because she's watching. Coffee Cake, member for 16 months. Officer Gunderson, the sheath finder, where's the video? Oh my God, Coffee Cake, 20 Truth and Transparency. Holy shit, Coffee Cake, 10. Coffee Cake just donated 50 Truth and Transparency memberships. Holy. That deserves bells for days. Okay, holy ballsack. You like that? Wow. Okay. So is it at all possible that the FBI showed Dylan Mortensen pictures, right? Because the FBI is doing their own motherfucking thing. You have to remember that. The FBI was doing their own thing, okay? And then Idaho State Police showed her something on December 30th. But the whole point here is that if we go back and we think about Ashley Jennings, she had exhibits S1 through S5. And in the state's objection to the defendant's amended motion for Frank's hearing, her reply, more or less, that's what Hippler was asking, like, well, is this in the, we supplied it in my reply. He's like, I didn't really want you to be saying that. And so that's a big problem because when you look at S1 through S5, the only two dates that she mentions that could have been when Ashley Jennings is saying, we told them that she saw, that she couldn't identify anybody. My question is when were you asked about that? When was Dylan asked? Okay. So now follow this. Ready? Meaning Mortensen was shown the defendant's picture either on one of two dates, November 17th or December 1st. And I believe that those two dates would be when she would have been interviewed by FBI. And that these interviews were conducted by FBI agents, is my opinion. I believe that Idaho State Police did it on the 30th. I knew that. This would mean that Dylan was interviewed 5 times total: 13th, 17th, 1st, 13th, and then 30th. Okay. But the big thing is that how Ashley Jennings argues this. And she says, it was only upon seeing that picture that Mortensen had to have recalled the suspect's eyebrows, since Jennings excluded these as being a consistent feature throughout all of her interviews. It would have been, did Dylan Mortensen ever say that, yeah, I can't identify him. I don't know him. I don't know who he is, but I recognize like his eyebrows. So you know how, what's his name just said what he said? It's just interesting how actually it could be that Megan Kelly says, yeah, you would never forget those eyebrows. But why is Payne saying that it would be consistent with, it's just all fucked up. It's all fucked up. Now, if those of you guys that think that they possibly had Brian Kober earlier, right? That goes with the whole November, in my opinion, it goes with the whole December 1st, because I believe that there was something up with the WSU people going to his vehicle, them somehow not getting the, tip, all bullshit. So to me, it makes sense that the December 1st, them showing her a picture on December 1st makes sense because it was after the November 29th being by his car and stuff at WSU. So if December 1st, 2 days after Whitman saw the defendant's Washington State driver's license photograph. There's a problem with the narrative with Whitman's call to the tip line was somehow lost or disregarded because given Mortensen's interviews were with the FBI and Whitman's information withheld from the Moscow Police Department, it's looking an awful like Whitman was directed to go to look at that vehicle by the FBI. Because remember, my take is that for whatever reason, the FBI isn't sharing stuff with Moscow Police Department. Because how do you not have Brian Kohlberger's name until December 19th if you're truly working together? Payne would have had his name way before then. Now, okay, does anybody know how to code? Is anybody a coder out there? Okay, predator, prey account. Let's see. Anybody a coder out there? All right. Does anybody remember a predator or prey account? Filter. Filter. It depends on what you're trying to code. Something in Python. Okay. Actually, the transparency. Hold, please. All in chat are watching it rain green. Is it still raining green in there? Oh my gosh. Holy cow. Yes. 20, 30, 35, 40, 50, 70. Are you fucking kidding me? 70, 90. Coffee cake, 90 memberships. Wow. Thank you so much. Okay. So those of you guys that like Annie Potts over there, she's like, I don't know, Payne's just fucking crazy, blah, blah, blah. How don't I have one by now? You must have your memberships off because you should totally have one. You normally when you like comment a bunch, you should totally have one. You have to like be able to accept them. And I don't even know how to do that. I don't know. But make sure like you can't get one if you don't have your memberships on. Like to like it'll ask you like, do you want to be able to receive them? And usually people that are like trolling and like they usually don't have them on because then it comes up like, what do you want to do in Python? Oh, okay. This is what I want to do in Python. Okay, ready? I want somebody that can code in Python to do the following. I need someone that knows how to use something called MEL, frequency, capsular coefficients, and a dynamic time warping algorithm. Can you do that? I'm looking for a computer science or machine learning grad student who would like to do this just for funsies. Anyways, remember that if Payne was reporting back to Fry throughout the whole Pennsylvania operation, right? Remember, the parents are all getting phone calls. So then sometime between the SWAT entering the house at 1:14 a.m. and the defendant being arrested and charged at 4 in the morning, Fry took it upon himself to make midnight calls to all the victims' families. I think that they were called before then, based off of what I've been told, to inform them someone had been detained and was about to be charged, and that this predator or prey account was set up right between those two times. This predator or prey account. Now, let's go to the Dylan Mortensen video. And the way that they spell predator or prey is it's different. It's like this. Does anybody remember? It goes like this. Pred or like this. All one word? Yeah, it's like this. Is it still around? Yeah, you do not need YouTube Premium to get memberships gifted to you. You just need to have that little membership thing on. It's like just so you can accept them. It just asks you if you want to. Colleen, you just watched it recently? Okay, can you send it to me? Can you send me the why I'm not able to find it at the moment? I'm not happy. Predator, prey, yeah. Okay, I got it. Okay, here we go. This is my bomb.
Like they've hung out almost every day since the incident occurred. And I've seen her a plethora of times as well. So you're going to notice I'm not going to use words like alleged.
Okay, so I'm going to show that, hold on, that this account This account was created, joined December 30th, 2022. You see that? And it was between the times. This time, this video, this channel that made this video. It was made between the time of Brian Kober being like swatted and him being officially arrested. So 1:15 in the morning until 4 in the morning. Okay. All right. So it's really specific to the time. Like this account was created between 1:30 a.m. and 4 a.m. between the time that they broke in, busted down the door, and arrested him. Thank you so much, LaDonna. $20 for great work. Thank you. Now, let's go check this out for a second.
like allegedly or attempting to screw Dylan. And give you a brief background as to who I am. So my girlfriend is in Dylan's inner circle. And by inner circle, I mean inner circle. Like they've hung out almost every day since the incident occurred. And I've seen her a plethora of times as well. So you're going to notice I'm not going to use words like allegedly, supposedly, because all of this is actual first-hand factual information. Where should I start? To clear things up. First of all, there's a lot of misconception about Dylan suffering from PTSD or trauma or any of that. None of that is accurate. In fact, when we try to console Dylan after the incident, she's the one that was laughing at me and my girlfriend and I, talking about we're so weird, and we tried to give her a hug and stuff. So she's still the same old Dylan. She's had a rough life growing up. She's been through a lot. She doesn't have PTSD and didn't suffer any trauma. The incident that night, and what I'm referring to with the feds actually put a lot of words into her mouth that she didn't say herself first. So there was a lot of leading statements that they were insinuating to her. And she was really scared the first few days, obviously, after the incident occurred. So like the reason none of it makes sense in the affidavit is because it didn't really happen that way. So she never stood there shocked when she saw the individual. She was just standing in a doorway, like anybody who opens the door. It was just, she opened the door and yelled at Ethan and Xana and who she thought was their friend. She yelled at them to be quiet. That's what was going on with that situation. And she just went back into her room. She locked the door like usual and, went to sleep. Everything was quiet after she yelled at them. So she didn't think anything of it. For everyone who's creating these random stories about her being shocked or traumatized, she didn't realize anything was going on. And it might sound crazy, it might sound dumb, but she really had no clue anything was going on. They were being a little loud, so she yelled at them to be quiet. And that's it. She locked her door and she just went back to her room. And she didn't want to be nosy or anything. So, she was kind of new to that house, so she didn't want to be nosy and, get all up in their business, especially at, in the middle of the night or early morning. So it's as simple as that. Everyone trying to blow that whole situation into something that's not. So yeah, that's that. And she didn't actually get a real good look at Brian. At the time, she assumed it was one of Xana and Ethan's friend who was just getting ready to leave, who was walking out. She didn't get that good of a look. The feds were really aggressive with Dylan the first few days, which is why she hired the attorney to begin with, because of the treatment of her during the interview, more like an interrogation, to be honest. So that's why she got an attorney, because the way they were talking to her and, they didn't really understand or believe why she's the only one alive when you kind of skip rooms to get to the other two rooms. So she didn't really like the feel of how the interrogators or the feds were talking to her. And within like a few days after the incident, they approached her with pictures of Brian. I was like, is this the guy? Do you think this is the guy? This is definitely him, right? And they were almost leading her to believe.
Boom, bitch! Oh, fuck! Shut the fuck up. You guys, 11:17. Okay? Back up. All right? Back up.
And within like a few days after the incident, they approached her with pictures.
11:17.
Pictures of Brian. I was like, is this the guy? Do you think this is the guy? This is definitely him, right? And they were almost leading her to believe this has to be the person. And she wasn't really sure. But they kind of put those words in her mouth. It's almost like, they were insinuating it so much to where she was like, yeah, I think, no, it's definitely him.
Listen. Wait, what did she say?
It's in her mouth. It's almost like, they were insinuating it so much to where she was like, yeah, I think, no, it's definitely him. And that's when they just kind of like ran with it. So what you see in the affidavit is it didn't play out that way.
Just so you guys know, I know who You guys can just stop speculating in the chat. I know who the voice is. I know who the person is. Okay. Now listen to what I'm about to tell you guys. Okay. This is really, really important. On 11/17/2022. Ready? The STR wasn't even back yet. The STR was 11/20.
So Dylan's attorney and her, and actually all of us, are pretty upset at how they threw her under the bus in the affidavit. When's the last time you've seen a witness or like a snitch in a case, their actual names being mentioned? You know, the fact that they didn't redact it. We all think that the feds and prosecutors threw her name in there purposely to apply more pressure, because Dylan was really wishy-washy during the interrogation. And with them, you know, putting these words, you know, set in stone on paper, it kind of puts a lot of pressure on her now, because everyone views her as like some star witness, the star of the case. So that's what we all believe, that she kind of is getting screwed over by, you know, the feds and the prosecutor, you know, because now she has to testify and she has to say kind of what, you know, what words they.
She was. Dylan was interviewed on allegedly 11/13, 11/17, 12/1, 12/13, and 12/30. And now I know why they interviewed her on 12/30. Because the feds were the one that showed her a motherfucking picture. And they're not using any, and that just can't come out, right? So go and ask her on 12/30 and show her a picture and go with that. Howard Blum, you're a little sneaky motherfucker, man. I'll tell you that, because nobody ever said what day. And it wasn't until I heard that little Freudian fucking slip there. It's not DTS. It's not drunk turkey at all. Okay. This channel was created. Listen, nobody knew except for the family, except for victims. This channel was created on 12/30/2022 between 1:30 and 4 o'clock in the morning. Okay. Dylan Mortensen was shown photos. According to this, and like this, and when you take into what we know now, okay, of S1 through S5, it would then have to be either on 11/17 or 12/1, and it would be the feds that showed Dylan Mortensen photos. It's fucking wild. Jeez. Oh, what the heck's going on here? You guys, it's just stop guessing on who it is. The person is legit, okay? The person is legit. There's no reason to guess who this person is, okay? This is legit, and I'm just trying to supply this to everybody so we can start thinking to ourselves, what the fuck was going on that Dylan Mortensen would be showed pictures on 11/17. You heard it right here. And then go and listen to the hearing. This account was created on 12/30/2022 during the arrest of Brian Kohlberger. Now let's listen to the rest of it, if you guys would let me continue. Let's go like this. I thought I would just give you guys a nice little bomb on a Saturday night, you know? Fuck it, come blazing. And if you meet me halfway, I didn't want to do that, damn it. There we go, there we go. Let's go back to this.
He actually knows happened, you know, like fine, she has to say kind of what, you know, what words they put in her mouth instead of what she actually believed, you know, and what she actually knows happened, you know, like with her own words, not words that were like shoved in her mouth, you know. So yeah, her attorney is pretty upset. She's pretty upset, but at the same time, she knows that, you know, she can be a huge help in this case. So it's not like she's identifying somebody she didn't see. It just didn't play out necessarily like, oh, bushy eyebrows. She saw bushy eyebrows, you know, and was able to 100% identify him, you know. It's just initially when, you know, detectives and feds came in and took over the scene had been contaminated so badly by the local authorities. When they first came, first responders, they stomped all over the place, contaminated the scene. You know, all the, you know, other people that were at the house, they were, you know, walking up and down the steps, you know, to make sure what they're seeing is what they're really seeing. So, I mean, this is a scene that was really badly contaminated. So to equal the playing field, the feds feel like, you know, having a star witness is, you know, is critical here. But just the way she was being interrogated initially was, it's kind of crazy. It's not what you guys think. They weren't being all sensitive and gentle to her. They were really accusatory and kind of, you know, pressured, you know, put the press on her. Thought that she might have something to do with it because it just didn't make sense to them why she's the only one alive. And on top of that, didn't see anything or really hear anything. You know, she didn't want to be nosy, didn't want to, you know.
Only one alive? What about Bethany?
Get up in her roommate's business. She told him to be quiet. You know, I mean, the last thing that crossed their mind was people are getting slaughtered next door and upstairs, you know. So, I think that's pretty much everything I've covered. So, yeah, just to go over the whole, you know, suffering trauma, she was shocked as she saw him walk past her. Like, it's not as dramatic as you guys think. Like, he was already halfway towards the kitchen and walking out. And for all of y'all that are scratching your heads, yes, police do lie. They've kind of thrown everybody around the ringer through this whole case from the very start. And you have to think about it. Why would a survivor, a victim, have to hire an attorney? Obviously, they were mistreating her pretty badly as they're interrogating her, you know, and especially now throwing her name in the affidavit like that, you know, that's all because they're pretty upset she hired an attorney to begin with, and because they want to put a lot of pressure on her from the public for her to be the star witness. But aside from that, she's doing good. She's the same old Dylan. Yeah, no, there's no trauma, PTSD, anything, you know. She really feels for, you know, her friends who are deceased, and, you know, she does beat herself up a little bit about, you know, not being more involved in the situation that night. But, you know, realistically, I mean, something like that, it's not going to cross your mind that something like that's taking place in your house. So yes, she does feel for the family, and she's really saddened by the whole situation. But as far as her as an individual, she's still the same person. She's not like a traumatized individual. So yeah, I think I pretty much covered everything. And
Yeah.
let's see. Yeah, no, that's everything. Hopefully this video doesn't come off sounding crazy.
No, actually, this video makes a hell of a lot of sense.
Okay, so before we dive into what I'm referring to about the Fed screwing or attempting to screw Dylan.
Boom, right there. You guys, the fucking feds showed her a picture, I'm telling you, on 11/17. Okay? It didn't say the, ISP. It doesn't talk about MPD. It's the feds.
Okay, so before we dive into what I'm referring to about the Fed screwing or attempting to screw Dylan, and give you a brief background as to who I am. So my girlfriend is in Dylan's inner circle. And by inner circle, I mean inner circle. Like they've hung out almost every day since the incident occurred. And I've seen her a plethora of times as well. So you're going to notice I'm not going to use words like allegedly, supposedly, because all of this is actual firsthand factual information. Where should I start to clear things up? First of all, there's a lot of misconception about Dylan suffering from PTSD or trauma or any of that. None of that is accurate. In fact, when we try to console Dylan after the incident, she's the one that was laughing at me and my girlfriend and I, talking about we're so weird, and we tried to give her a hug and stuff. So she's still the same old Dylan. She's had a rough life growing up. She's been through a lot. She doesn't have PTSD and didn't suffer any trauma. The incident that night, and what I'm referring to with the Fed actually put a lot of words into her mouth that she didn't say herself first. So there was a lot of leading statements that they were insinuating to her. And she was really scared the first few days, obviously, after the incident occurred. So, like, the reason none of it makes sense in the affidavit is because it didn't really happen that way. So she never stood there shocked when she saw the individual. She was just standing in a doorway, like anybody who opens the door. It was just, she opened the door and yelled at Ethan and Xana and who she thought was their friend. She yelled at them to be quiet. That's what was going on with that situation. And
she yelled at the person that had this supposed mask on. What he means when he's saying there is that the person who Dylan thought was like their friend, like Xana and Ethan's friend.
And she just went back into the room. She locked the door like usual and, went to sleep. Everything was quiet after she yelled at them. So she didn't think anything of it. For everyone who's creating these random stories about her being shocked or traumatized, she didn't realize anything was going on. And it might sound crazy, it might sound dumb, but she really had no clue anything was going on. They were being a little loud, so she yelled at them to be quiet. And that's it. She locked her door and she just went back to her room. And she didn't want to be nosy or anything. So, she was kind of new to that house, so she didn't want to be nosy and, get all up in their business, especially at, in the middle of the night or early morning. So it's as simple as that. Everyone trying to blow that whole situation into something that's not. So yeah, that's that. And she didn't actually get a real good look at Brian. At the time, she assumed it was one of Xana and Ethan's friend who was just getting ready to leave, who was walking out. She didn't get that good of a look. The feds were really aggressive with Dylan the first few days, which is why she hired the attorney to begin with, because of the treatment of her during the interview, more like an interrogation, to be honest. So that's why she got an attorney, because the way they were talking to her and, they didn't really understand or believe why she's the only one alive when you kind of skip rooms to get to the other two rooms. So she didn't really like the feel of how the interrogators or the feds were talking to her. And within like a few days.
Oh my God. Why you skipped room to get to the other two rooms? Wait a second.
Feds were talking to her. And within like a few days after the incident, the interview, more like an interrogation, to be honest. So that's why she got an attorney, because the way they were talking to her, and they didn't really understand or believe why she's the only one alive when you kind of skip rooms to get to the other two rooms. So she didn't really like the feel of how the interrogators or the feds were talking to her. And within like a few days after the incident, they approached her with pictures of Brian. I was like, is this the guy? Do you think this is the guy? This is definitely him, right? And they were almost leading her to believe this has to be the person. And she wasn't really sure, but they kind of put those words in her mouth. It's almost like, they were insinuating it so much to where she was like, yeah, I think, yeah, no, it's definitely him. And that's when they just kind of like ran with it. So what you're seeing in the affidavit is, it didn't play out that way. So Dylan's attorney and her, and actually all of us, are pretty upset at how they threw her under the bus in the affidavit. When's the last time you've seen a witness or like a snitch in a case, the actual names being mentioned? The fact that they didn't redact it. We all think that the feds and prosecutors threw her name in there purposely to apply more pressure, because Dylan was really wishy-washy during the interrogation. And with them, putting these words, set in stone on paper, it kind of puts a lot of pressure on her now, because everyone views her as like some star witness, the star of the case. So that's what we all believe, that she kind of is getting screwed over by, the feds and the prosecutor, because now she has to testify and she has to say kind of what words they put in her mouth instead of what she actually believed, and what she actually knows happened, like with her own words, not words that were like shoved in her mouth, So yeah, her attorney is pretty upset. She's pretty upset, but at the same time, she knows.
Listen, what this would mean is that Dylan did everything that she said that she did, right? But the person that was there that wasn't Brian at that time, or whoever the killer would be. Okay. Why would she think that this person is just a friend of theirs? They're like, well, because that's what they do all the time. And if this person was just running all through the place, like Dylan yelled at this person. Remember that? And that's what I kept saying, like, somebody that's just going to keep opening their door and closing their door and opening their door and closing their door. This all happened way earlier when they were like partying. Okay. And I've said this. I said this all happened way earlier. What Dylan's remembering here was way earlier. The feds were the one that fucking interviewed this broad. The feds were the ones that were running the fucking show. They were doing a bunch of crap. And here, MPD wasn't with them. I don't even know. So in here, the guy says that Dylan was shown photos a couple days after. And I'm telling you, 11/17, she had an interview. And 11/17, the feds were there. And if they showed her photos of Brian Kober on 11/17, the STR makeup wasn't even done yet. I'm going to leave you guys right with that shit, okay? Okay, is that right? Much love to everybody that showed love through super stickers, gifted memberships. I mean, thank you guys so much. Cheers, but there's your bomb. And remember, this is the only video on this channel. This person created the channel on 12/30, 2022, during the time frame of Brian Kober being broken in. They swatted him, and then he was officially arrested at 4 or whatever. And this was uploaded for reference purposes right here. January 13th, 2023. right after the affidavit. So, now take that, Megyn Kelly, Howard Blum, and let's talk about some real good shit here. Okay? Is that right? Is that right? If you meet me halfway.
Like brains, and like if you need a lot of brains, you're gonna be in trouble.